Okay, Pastor Gary Clark from Hillsong in London. Tell us something about your life. How did you meet the Lord?
I met the Lord in Australia.
Okay.
And I was in my late 20s, and I was in a party one night.
Okay.
And I'd met some Christians,
yes.
street preachers.
Yes.
So I'd heard the gospel, but I'd never bought into the gospel. Mm-hmm. And I'm speaking to this a girl, believe it or not, in this party, and we start talking, and it was an interesting party. Somehow she got invited. I was there because they were friends. So we start talking, and I start telling her all about the things that the Christians had told me.
Okay.
And I was like fascinated with this. Okay. And so I was telling her,
yes.
And we sort of messed the party up. But anyway, and when we left the party, she went her way, I went my way, and said, well, let's catch up, catch up and have a drink or something.
Okay.
And she rang me up and she said, you're not going to believe what's happened.
Mm-hmm.
After talking to you at that party, I walked out of the party and said, God, if everything that guy was talking about is real, wow. Reveal yourself to me. So she rings me up and she said, I prayed that prayer. She was a hairdresser, just moved into town. Uh-huh. Every new client was a Christian, okay. Who told her the same things that I told her. Yeah, and then, so we met, had a drink, and we both went, wow, like, is this real? And because I was still trying to work out whether it was real or not. And then a week later, she rang me up and she said, I'm going to church.
Yes.
Because that one of those Christians invited her to church. And I said, can I come? And I went with her. I knew what was going to happen because I'd been around church a little bit. And I knew at the end, you just had to put your hand up. Mm-hmm. So I was waiting for the end. I have no idea what the guy talked about. I just wanted to get to the end, wow. Put my hand up. Got to the end, put my hand up. I want this, and haven't looked back since.
Wow. And you told me that right from the start, you've always been involved in church, and you expected that from others, but you gave me two secrets of your commitment. Tell
okay,
about that.
All right. So I would attribute these things to, I think, what's kept me on track.
Yeah.
Because it's not because my life's there's been plenty of disappointments in being a Christian.
Okay, yeah.
Plenty of reasons to get offended. All of the things that we can take personally if we forget that it's not about Jesus. And so the first Sunday I was at church, I noticed the money thing happening. And I said to the people that I was sitting with, what's this?
Yes.
They said, we believe that if you honor God with the first fruits of your salary, then that's what we believe. Mm-hmm. And I said, okay. So I worked out how much I'd earned this week, got my wallet out, put what I now know as a tithe,
yes.
Put it in the container,
yes.
And have done that with everything I've earned since that. And I was 26 when I made that decision.
So that's one of the things that commit you with.
I believe that if I was to look back, the thing that is
incredible,
because I've honored God with call it the fruit of my life. When the Bible talks, where you put your treasure, your heart will be.
Yes. Yeah.
And so I believe, all of that. I believe is always. This has located me in the house of God. It's located in not just the physical, the church, but the spiritual, as in his house. Once I didn't tithe, mm-hmm. And that's because an elder, believe it or not, an elder's wife, challenged me that she believed my tithing was legalistic. Oh. And I said to her, just to prove to you it's not legalistic, I won't tithe this week. Okay. So I didn't, and then went back to it the next week. Okay. and then the other thing that I believe is just so important, that if I was to reflect, is I can remember I'd been a Christian about 6 months, and they were doing a presentation at church about serving and getting involved in church. Mm-hmm. And it was about serving, going into jails, telling people about Jesus. Okay. So, and they said, you need to be a Christian for at least 12 months before you can do this. And I'd been a Christian 6 months, and I thought, well, I'll go and ask whether I can join this. And I figure if they don't ask me how long I've been a Christian, I won't tell them. So I went, they said, they didn't ask me how long I'd been a Christian, so I didn't lie because they didn't ask me. And so I joined the jail ministry, what was a jail ministry. Yes. and used to going twice a week into a jail, knocking on doors. Hey, can I talk to you? And talking to people about Jesus in jails, and from that, all sorts of areas of serving God. But I've never once, even in my lowest points, my most disillusioned points, my most frustrated points, my own personal struggle points, I've never once stopped tithing, and I've never once stopped serving.
And did you ever imagine being a pastor? I mean, when you started with the Lord, was that?
Well, no, I did it because I just wanted to serve.
Yes.
I didn't serve to become a pastor.
Okay.
It wasn't and I think that's a mistake a lot of people make.
Okay.
They serve to get somewhere.
Yeah.
And I think you can't serve to get somewhere, because serving is about the other person. It's not about you. It's not about getting promoted. And so my motive is I just want to do something for God. I want to help people. I want to try and tell people as best I can what I've experienced, and try and help them translate that experience into their own experience.
Okay.
And I think no matter what we do, if we always do it because we're doing it for people. And I think still now, even preaching, you've got to constantly remind yourself you're preaching for the people. Who's your audience?
Yeah.
And your audience is the person. It doesn't change.
Okay.
So I think serving is the thing you do. And because even when people get into my ministry, I've got a ministry, and they say, well, my ministry is.
Okay.
I think if they use the term what ministry means, my area of service is, my area of services, my area of services, then I think you will. It all takes on a whole different dimension.
All right. You've been with Hillsong right from the start, yes?
No, not from the start. I've been now in Hillsong for heading towards 21 years.
21 years. Okay, all right.
So I was in a church prior to joining Hillsong.
Okay.
And I was a pastor in this church, and I sort of, I don't know, sometimes you just get disillusioned.
Yes.
Through your own, whether it be through your own action or the action of others. And I got disillusioned, and so I just decided I'm going to go back to my career.
Okay.
And I'm just going to be a Christian at the church I'd like to go to, and that was Hills. And then from that started serving again, because I thought, well, I'm going to go back to what I did. I'm going to try and make money. I'm going to give to the church, which I always do, and I'm going to serve somewhere.
Okay. And how did you end up in London?
Well, I've always had a deep desire to live in Europe.
Okay.
And oddly enough, about 4 years before I moved there, I felt like God spoke to me and said, you're going to be here one day.
Oh.
And which is odd, because I'm just traveling, And then just one day I was just working in the office, felt like the Holy Spirit spoke to me and said that that the elders are meeting right now, and they're discussing about asking you to go to London.
Wow.
And then my phone rang, and it was Brian's secretary. And Megan, the message was, would you and your wife, could you have an appointment with Brian tomorrow? And I thought, wow, okay, this is interesting. So I went home, said to Kathy, we've got a lot to talk about, because tomorrow I believe God's spoken to me. We're going to be asked to go to London.
Wow.
So we went and met Brian. He asked us to go to London. And I wanted to say yes immediately, because I'd heard 4 years ago it was one of those amazing things. And he said, I don't want an answer now, you can give me an answer tomorrow. So this is an answer to 4-year-old daughter, 2-year-old son, wife, moved to the other side of the world. And the next morning, Kathy's answer was, yeah.
Yes. Wow.
And so we went in and said yes, and I was in London 2 weeks later. And 2 months later, Kathy was there with the 2 children. We've been there 16 years.
16 years. And now it's a big, flourishing church?
Not big enough. But
Okay. But, I mean, for Europe, it's pretty big.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you. Could you finish with some words for our church, whatever God puts in your heart?
Yeah, I would just say, never take for granted what God is doing, and just the atmosphere here and what you can see is taking place is pretty extraordinary. And as everybody, you continue to do what you're doing, and you continue to just be a part of what's happening. I really believe that this church is going to have a significant impact, not just on South America, but on many countries around the world. So I might be talking too big for you, but I would. That's what I see. That's what I would encourage you in. So just keep doing what you're doing. It's absolutely amazing.
Thank you, Pastor.